All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's pre-lock show where we walk through these games, talk to you about what we're doing. I'm sharing my screen, so you'll see what I'm doing. But Brandon will also kind of talk through his approach on this slate as well, along with Men's and Max's. If you're not a DFS Army member, click the link in the description. Promo code BDUB, BDUBB for a 10% discount. Join the Discord and we'll answer more questions that we don't get to on this one. But yeah, we don't have a lot of time. If you can't tell, we have a shit ton of games on this slate. But the news made it a little bit easier. So some games I think we'll be able to move through pretty quickly, and then we'll stay on some longer that just make more sense because there's more to talk about. We'll jump right into it. Good to see everybody. Madness, good to see you as well. And Buckeyes trying out the mini max. I see you, man. Let's take it down. All right. We'll start off with the Hawks going up against the Hornets. High total here, 241.5. Relatively close spread, too, with a 5-point spread. For the Hawks tonight, the thing that I don't love is Trae Young returning. But outside of that, we have the news that Kristaps Porzingis is out. Brandon, what are you doing with these guys here?
So at first I was like, with Trae back, I'm definitely fading this team. But the more I thought about it, I think there's still a couple spots we can attack here.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Johnson is very much still in play. Still only 10K. I know that might seem like a lot, especially with Trae back, but it is a really soft matchup against the Hornets, who are not great defensively. No offense there.
I get it. I know.
But he's just playing way too good. I think it's 4 straight games now with triple doubles. And the field's not really on him. 8% ownership. I'll take that all day in this kind of spot. So force him in at 10%. And then Okongwu, I was going back and forth. I'm not a huge fan of his price, but again, super soft matchup down low. Threw a 5% in there. The other guys, however, are pretty much an easy fade for me with Trae back. Like, no, he would be normally a guy we would attack. We've been on him for pretty much the whole time since Trae is out, but with him back, he's definitely unplayable for me at 7,100. And other guys like Dyson and Reese Shea can't do it, but Jalen and Okongwu, I think there's definitely still enough opportunity for both of them to get there.
Yeah, the more and more I think about it, the closer I am to just completely fading Jalen Johnson. I have an 8% min on him right now, but there's a couple things I don't like. First is his price tag. He's 10K. I think he should probably be in the lower 9K range with Trae back. We don't know. No one knows how they're really going to switch things up with this offense not looking terrible without Trae. So there are some pieces here, but the thing that concerned me the most was just that the Hornets are a really good rebounding team, and Jalen Johnson typically gets most of his upside when he does get a triple-double. We saw this the last time he faced the Hornets. He struggled to get rebounds, but he was still able to score because they're a bad defense. So, I'm just going to ride the gut and just not play him, but I do think he's a very viable play if you're 150 maxing. But Okongwu, he's going to be a leverage play for me because I still want exposure to this game with the high total. And so with no Porzingis, he's going to be a leverage play for me tonight because the matchup is still soft against the Hornets. You can score on them. It's really just rebounding where you can struggle. And Okongwu, he has the height, and that's literally his job. He should still be able to get there and hopefully get a double-double for us there. And then I'm with you. No one else. No one else with Trae back. Other side of this game, not seeing really any ownership. Charlotte, Colin Sexton is out. That's really the only injury that moved the needle for me a little bit. Trey Mann is out, but LaMelo Ball is playing, which kind of ruins everything here for the most part. Anyone stand out for you?
I did take a few shots on this side of the ball as well. Again, this was another spot where I almost just moved past it, but with it being the second highest game total and a pretty close spread, I feel like I want shots on this side of the ball too. So, of course, I'm not playing LaMelo. Just waiting for the right time for him when he's fully healthy, 100% and playing all his minutes that he normally does. Now is not that time. So I'm playing the 3 other guys on this team, which is Brandon Miller, Con Knipple, and Miles Bridges. 10% on Miller, 5% on Knipple and Bridges, all 3 of them. They can be up and down at times, but they all have very nice upside. And, again, I love their ownership. And in this kind of game environment, their upside is good enough to break a slate. So definitely want some exposure here.
I'm with you. We're doing a lot of the same things. One thing that's very different, but Brandon Miller, I have a 10% min on as well. 7,400. Like you said, it's really the game environment I'm trying to capture here. Still wish LaMelo wasn't playing, but beggars can't be choosers. 5% min on Con Knipple. Would love to see Trey cover him a little bit. That would be nice. Get to attack the Hawks with a lot of guards again. But 5% min on Con just to try and have exposure here. And I can't do Miles Bridges. That's a complete bias thing. He makes a lot of sense. I just can't stand the guy, so I'm not playing him. Anyway, next up we have the team of the slate, at least in my book. We have the Knicks going up against the Pacers. Pretty soft matchup against the Pacers these days, and close spread. You might be saying, hey, why is the spread so close? Like, this is the team that just won the cup. They're high, drunk, hungover, whatever you want to call it. Cat is out. Josh Hart is out. Mitchell Robinson is out. 3 gigantic usage guys. But the biggest thing is Karl Anthony Towns is out along with Mitchell Robinson. Everyone is wondering what the hell is this team going to do with their bigs? And the big options are both 3K, which is insanity. And you will see a lot of these guys show up in your lineup. How are you kind of viewing the Knicks tonight?
Yeah, this will be one of the more popular teams on the slate, of course, with the news we got. So really didn't have to do anything here. Pretty much all these guys are popping, and we'll be playing everybody. As far as the big situation, I think what we have in the DS is very accurate. I think they'll both play pretty close to the same amount of minutes. We've seen this scenario before where they're split evenly. So I'm not really higher on one or the other. They've both been kind of volatile, but we'll see decent minutes. So I'll be around that 30% range on both of those guys. Of course, Brunson, I love anytime where there's no cat. We know the kind of usage he's going to see. He should be getting a lot of shots up. This should be a nice pace matchup, too. So he is currently a core play for me. Clarkson, I know he can be a scary play, but I love that you can play him at small forward and shooting guard, and 4,500 for the situation he's in is just makes a lot of sense. So he is another core play for me as well. And then other guys like Tyler Kolek, another great value play. And then you got OG and Bridges, which they're in great spots too. So yeah, like I said, I'm pretty much playing this whole team just about.
Yeah, and if y'all can't see the screen, I've done absolutely nothing to these guys in the domination station
You don't
because they
have
all
to.
show up a
You
lot.
don't
But
have
let's
to.
do a quick look at it just to make sure I'm not missing anyone. But Flip, man, I see your comment. I have a whole rant that I would like to talk about, but I don't think we have the time for it today. Jordan Clarkson is showing up in 91% of my lineups. Let's see. I don't really know how I feel about that, but I think I like it. How much Clarkson are you seeing show up, Brandon?
I capped him at 80%.
Yeah, that seems like a likely scenario for me, but I just need to double check some of my stuff here and see if that's really what I'm going to do. You know what? I will. He's at 90. If he goes above like 95, 99, I'll cap him. Jordan Clarkson hasn't been a very consistent player. We haven't seen a lot of ceiling from him, but with all these injuries, this should be the spot for him. I'm willing to go heavy on that, but it is something I don't hate capping at like 80 or 60%. Tyler Kolek is showing up in 71% of lineups. That's a lot. That's me being very over the field. I'll cap him at 60. He did do well, especially in that last game for the Cup. How much of him are you seeing?
Yeah, I guess with my other adjustments I made, I'm actually only getting 30%. So
Yeah. Well, right now I don't have a ton of adjustments, so that might be why. But I'll cap him at 60 just to keep that. Ariel at 50%, I'm okay with. OG at 49%. I considered making him a core play, but I kind of like my exposures on this slate, so I'm not going to force it there. Jalen Brunson showing up in 43% of my lineups. That's me being double the field. Comfortable with that, but if he falls, I would put him in. Yabusele, I'm at 32%, right around field weight exposure. Totally fine with that. Bridges at 25%. I thought about increasing him too, but as long as he's at 25, if he goes any lower, I'll put him in. But ideally, that won't be necessary on this slate. So that's literally everyone we talked about. Love the Knicks here. Great spot. I think there's much more to say there. Other side of this game, is interesting. I thought about taking shots on these guys, but ultimately I haven't pulled the trigger yet. Did you like any of these Pacers?
I am playing one, and it's very risky.
Okay.
I put a 5% min on Isaiah Jackson just to
Oh,
get a little different in that cheap center range. Everybody's going to be playing the cheap Knicks centers or Jackson Hayes, so I just wanted to throw him in the mix. He should have a softer matchup with Cat out. Not really too worried about Hug Porty or Yabusele defensively. We've seen when Isaiah Jackson gets at least 20 minutes or more, he can smash 3,600. So definitely a punt GPP play for 150. Wouldn't play him in one line or 20 max. You'll kind of see throughout as we continue to go, taking some shots on some risky value plays.
I like that. I will follow you on that. Mixing up the value a little bit. And we'll talk about some of these value guys as we move along. But
In the sim model too.
that always helps. I really want to find a reason to play Pascal Siakam. Like complete. I do think the matchup's much softer without guys like Cat out there. But the sim hates him. Absolutely nothing points towards playing him. But I'm going to put a 5% min on him as well. So much of the upper range guys, the ownership is focused all on Luka and Brunson. On this type of slate with so many games, like mixing in some of these studs too if you're 150 maxing. If you're 20 maxing, you don't need to play around with that. But 150 max, I just like to get weird in game environments I like. So that's the game plan there. Next up, we have the Miami Heat, the team that broke all of our hearts on Monday. I think that was. Maybe it was Tuesday. I don't remember anymore. Tyler Hero is out for this team. Pell Larson is out. Nikola Jovic is out. I like the Heat tonight. I feel like you don't, but what's your thought process?
Yeah, another team I almost skipped right past, but I was like, Heat burned everybody. Phil's not really on them too much, so I'm at least going to play a couple of them. I don't have as many as you do. I did put a 10% min on Powell. I just like his price, and the matchup is decent too. He has 50-point upside, so at 7 flat, willing to take that chance with a 10% min. I did consider some other guys. The only other one I did, and this is another risky value play. I put a 5% min on Drew Smith. Hero's still out. He's been seeing decent minutes, back-to-back games with at least 22 points. 22 points at 3,600. I'm good with that. So 5% min there. That's pretty much it for me.
Madness, man. Fontecchio ruined everything. But I'm sick, man. For me, if you hurt me, I want to hurt more. So, especially when the matchup is nice. The Nets, they play at a very slow pace, and so that's not great for fantasy production, but they suck at defense. That's really good for fantasy production. And so a lot of people are focusing on the pace side of things, and that's why these guys are low owned. The Miami Heat are usually solid plays when they're low owned. This isn't something you need to do once again. If you're 20 maxing, there's just way more clear, obvious plays. But 150 maxing, I'm taking my shot here. I have a 15% min on Norman Powell going heavy there. Love the matchup. Fontecchio, you hurt me last time. And most people are paying down with some of the other value we have. But a lot of the value we have, they don't have a ton of upside. Like they usually cap out at like 20, 25 fantasy points, even when they see a shit ton of minutes. We know Fontecchio at least has 30-point upside, which on a slate like this is just a really nice way of getting different. And so he's going to be a leverage play for me tonight. Bam Adebayo. Y'all know about Bam Adebayo. We can't trust that man, but he's low owned, which means no one else is. And once again, soft matchup. So he's another leverage play for me tonight. Davion Mitchell, I don't love. I think there's better guard plays, but I like having exposure to him. 5% min. And then Khalil Ware, 5% min as well. I think he'll be a bit more involved with just less bodies out there. And actually, I'm thinking about, I don't think you need Ware with all the other value we have on this slate. I'm going to take it off of Ware, but I'll keep the other guys. And I'll follow you with the 5% min on Drew Smith. All right. Next up, we have the Nets. There's only one guy I'm looking at here. Are you considering any of these guys?
No, I did consider MPJ, so I definitely understand that play. But just the way the Nets play their rotations, they run them deep, and most of these guys are just so up and down. It's hard to trust any of them on a slate this big. So, not against some of the main guys here. I just didn't personally force them in.
Yeah. The Miami Heat, they're a good defense. They play at a fast pace, the opposite of the Nets. But that means this is a pace up spot for the Nets. And who takes the most shots for this team? It's MPJ. If defense is going very well, MPJ might not get there, but he's done well even in tough matchups. So, again, not technically a leverage play, but a decent amount of leverage. I have a 10% min on MPJ and then called it a day. Next up, we have the Wizards going up against the Spurs. So I was a little surprised to see how high this total was at 240.5. Widespread, that part makes a lot more sense. From an injury perspective, Chris Middleton is out. Sarr has returned, but we don't really have him. Well, we have him projected for 30 minutes now. I think it was a little bit lower beforehand. But I don't like very many of these guys. Do you?
Just taking a couple shots. Mainly just I know the spread is very ugly, but this is another game that should be very fast paced and a lot of scoring, which hopefully this team can make some shots. But I'm just going with some of the highest upside. Not ready to go back to Sarr yet. 8,100 is a bit tough on this slate and matchup, especially with Wemby back in the mix. But I did put a 5% min on George and McCollum. They were decent on the sim model as well, but they both have like 40-point upside and priced okay. So just taking another low on shot here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I almost took that shot on CJ too, but I couldn't get all the way there. But I did put a 5% min on George. I just like his upside and trust him a little bit more, but nobody else. I don't like picking on the Spurs when Victor's back. Speaking of, Victor is back. From an injury news perspective, the thing with Victor is he's still not playing a ton of minutes. Even in the Cup, he only still played like 20-some. And that's just not going to be enough for his current price tag. They're pretty healthy at this point, but they have a fantastic matchup here. Who's standing out for you? I think there's one obvious one.
Yeah, Dylan Harper, which you really don't have to do much with him. He just pops naturally. I'm around 22% on him. I wish I liked more guys on this side of the ball. Wemby back in the mix, of course, muddies the water for so many guys. There is one guy I'm on the fence about, Devin Vassell. I just really like his price, and he was another guy popping on the sim model. So he's somebody I'm considering, but overall, I'm not a huge fan of this team.
I was struggling to find a way to get exposure to the Spurs just because they're another team that just plays a ton of guys.
Yeah.
But let me look a little bit closer at Vassell because he wasn't on my radar. We have 5,600. Not bad. Not really seeing any ownership. Look at the sim. 5,600. Vassell. Yeah. Sim does like him. I like it too. All right. Sim likes him. I like him. I'll do a 5% min on Vassell. And then for Dylan Harper, I capped him at 40%. It sounds like you might not need to do that anymore, but he was showing up in 80% of my lineups right before the show still. And I was like, yeah, screw that. He's a little bit too volatile for me. And so just not a fan of it. All right. Next up, we have the Raptors going up against the Milwaukee Bucks. For Toronto today, Jakob Poeltl is questionable. That's really the biggest piece of news because like Mamu will end up starting in that situation. But I'm not getting any exposure to these guys yet. Are you?
Yeah, nothing here. Everybody's priced appropriately.
Yeah.
We know the story with Ingram and Barnes. They have so much upside, but don't always hit it, especially Barnes. Ingram hasn't been too bad lately, but I don't like this spot enough to force anyone here, so just kind of moved on.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm with you. I don't hate taking shots. Like I think it's a viable play to take shots on Barnes, Ingram, but I just didn't get there. Low total game too, which is usually a reason I'm not getting there. For the Bucks going up against Toronto, we do have some Q tags. Milwaukee is going to be without Giannis, of course. Kyle Kuzma's questionable. AJ Green is questionable. That's important because if Kyle Kuzma ends up getting ruled out, that solidifies the minutes for guys like Bobby Portis, Jericho Sims, even a little bit too. AJ Green, if he gets ruled out, that helps more guys like Trent, Harris, Cole Anthony. Gross names, very gross names. But for now, we just don't have that information yet. So if the information we have, any of these guys stand out for you?
Yeah, another team I pretty much moved on from. I did think about KPJ, but I just don't like this game overall. And Brunson's only $400 more, so uh, I didn't force him in. He was really the only guy I was considering.
Yeah, that was actually the only reason I forced in KPJ, just as like a slight pivot off of Brunson, who I like and I think is in a fantastic spot. But I have 150 lineups. It's good to have some places where I'm getting different. But he's really expensive. We're really paying a premium. But we know he has a ton of upside when he's the only guy on this team. If Kuzma gets out, there's only a benefit, less missed shots by him that KPJ can take. So just a 10% shot on a game with a close spread. Next up, we have the Rockets going up against the Pelicans. Super great matchup for the Rockets. The Pelicans can't really do anything from a defensive standpoint, but for Houston, they are all pretty much healthy besides Terry Eason, who's questionable, which just makes them a little bit harder to get to. I'm curious to know, like, are you forcing exposure to like Şengün, KD, or are you just letting it ride?
Yeah, literally those two. I have a 15% min on Şengün. We know you can attack this team down low. Very good spot for him. And then KD, uh, overall, he's been a little volatile this season, but he's had quite a few games where he's gotten close to 50 points. So if he can put up 50 at 8,400, then definitely think some of your lines can be in a great spot at 3% ownership. So willing to take that risk, put a 5% min there just due to the matchup. And didn't get anywhere else. I think everyone else is kind of priced appropriately. Sometimes I like taking shots on Amen, but I think he needs to be probably in that 7K range before I
Yeah, he needs to
feel
be
better.
1,000, maybe 2,000 cheaper than I
Yeah,
might think about it. But the matchup is great.
yeah.
I don't know why I don't like Şengün more, to be honest, but I have a 10% min on him, and he's showing up in 13% of lineups. So I'm right around field weight exposure. KD, I'm never really the biggest fan of, so I'm not going to get there. Are you playing any other Pelicans?
Nope. Another easy team to fade for me. Not a favorable matchup for them. Everybody's still priced up as if Zion wasn't playing. So couldn't really think of a reason to play anybody here.
Yeah. And then next game, we have the Clippers going up against the Thunder. For this game, it's just a low total, gigantic spread. James Harden is out, which typically would make things interesting, but they're going up against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are the best defensive team in the league. You can make a case for taking a shot on a guy like Kawhi if you think this game stays close. I think he's really the only viable option, but what are your thoughts, man?
So y'all might think I'm
Uh-oh.
crazy with these two plays.
Oh,
Just again, these are 150. These are like super gummy plays right here, especially on the 11 game slate. So I really don't think the Clippers are going to keep this game close at all.
Yep.
Especially with Harden out. So I'm taking some shots on some turds here. So 5% min on Jordan Miller, 5% min on Kobe Brown. Those two have been seeing solid minutes the last couple games, at least 20. I think both have played over 20. And I'm a little biased too because both of those guys are two guys targeted quite a bit in summer league, so I know what they're capable of. As long as they get the minutes in, if this spread holds true, both of those guys will more than likely see at least 20 minutes again. So I'm just again taking a shot. Probably don't need it. super crazy, but I'm just this is the way I'm playing the situation. So
Yeah, you aren't wrong. That is definitely crazy, but not impossible. I liked it enough. I put a 3% min on both. I couldn't do the 5. I couldn't do the 5. I was hoping you said Kawhi Leonard because I'm just looking for a reason to play him
yeah, I
because he's
couldn't do
so low
Kawhi.
owned, and the stud is out from this team, and he's only 8,600. But I don't think this game stays close enough for it. Really close to pulling the trigger on it, though, but I'm not going to. Thunder side, everyone's worried about a blowout. Clippers aren't a good team. Are you taking a shot on any of these guys, like a Chad or Jalen?
Nah, couldn't do it. Just again, the way I'm playing the situation, I think this is another game where we see them sit out pretty much the whole fourth quarter, and everybody's priced up. Huge slate. Think there's better spots.
Agreed. I always hate just looking past games because I like doing what no one else does, but
Yep.
sometimes even I have my limits. For Detroit, they're pretty healthy. Am I missing anybody here?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Detroit's pretty healthy. Decent matchup against the Mavs. Okay total, relatively widespread. Any of these Pistons stand out for you?
I don't like it, but I put a 10% min on Tobias. He's just one of those cheap 5K players who sees a lot of minutes, and I do like the matchup. And if his shot is falling, he can definitely pay that off. So I wanted some exposure there. Put a 15% min on Jaden Ivey. He's been playing a little better the last few games. I think last 3 games he's scored at least 20 fantasy points. So at 3,400, if he can do that again, another sneaky value play you can have in the mix. And then I put a 10% min on Cade Cunningham. All the attention's on Luka tonight for rightful reasons, but Cade has just as high of upside. Maybe not as consistent as Luka, but he can get up there with Luka too. So at 8% ownership at 10.3K, taking a shot there. And I want to take one on Duran so bad, but he really has not been in great form. It is a great spot for him. Said it time and time again. Love attacking the paint, especially if AD misses again, but I didn't get there, unfortunately.
Man, I'm not on mute. Y'all, I see your comments in the chat. If we have a chance, once we get through all these games, I'll go back through them because some of them are good. Harris, I hear you. I can't get there. Ivy is interesting, but not going there. Harris was showing up a little bit for me without doing anything in the DS, and I was comfortable with that. But now he's not showing up for me. He's only showing up in one lineup. Same with Ivy. And I don't want to force it right now. But I do have Jalen Duren listed as a leverage play for me. AD was not at shoot around tonight. I'm not really expecting him to play. If he plays, I don't really care. I'm still going to keep Jalen Duren as a leverage play. But it makes me feel a lot better, assuming he's not going to play tonight. Fantastic matchup. Love the price tag. Love the ownership. There's actually not really anything I don't like. I mean, yeah, his form hasn't been great, but that's what's keeping his ownership low, and I like that. And then Cade Cunningham, I have a 10% min on. I think the other pay-up options on this slate are better, but again, I'm just trying to find ways to make my lines unique, and so playing Cade at low ownership is just a nice way of doing that. And that's going to be it for me there. For the Mavs, this is the team that has a ton of Q tags. They never make it easy for us. We have Anthony Davis listed as questionable. Najee Marshall's listed as questionable. If AD is out, we've seen Gafford start a good amount of times in this spot, and then we've seen the usage rates for guys like Cooper Flagg and PJ Washington really shoot up in those situations. With Najee, we might see a guy like Klay Thompson start or Max Christie start, which sounds disgusting, but it's reality that we are living in. And then the Pistons defense is a really good defense, so not one I typically like to pick on. Are you liking any of the Mavs right now?
Surprisingly, I didn't go as high as you did, but I put a 5% min on Flag just to kind of be proactive if AD gets rolled out. Not the biggest fan of the matchup. Like you said, Detroit has been a very solid defense so far this year. So not my favorite spot, but when 80 is out, we've seen Flag kind of take over, especially last game where he just went absolutely crazy. So
Yeah.
um, he'll be the one guy I'm taking a shot on.
Yeah.
Couldn't really get to anybody else.
And we talked about it on Monday's show. Madness was all over Şengün and Jokic, but I was like, it's really easy to tell when blow up spots are going to happen. If you see a guy going up against Utah, the blow up spot's probably going to happen. If you look at everybody's game log, their big game is against Utah. So Cooper Flag is not going up against Utah today. So I'm not expecting that explosive game, but he's still only 7,500. Once he hits the 8K range, I'm going to be a lot less interested, probably. But he's not owned, and I think he's a little bit too cheap for the upside he brings to the table, especially if AD gets ruled out, which is what I'm expecting. I want to be over the field and probably not late swap. We'll see what happens from a news perspective or from like an ownership perspective. All right, 3 more games to go. We have the Lakers going up against the Jazz. Pretty wide spread at 9.5 points. Good total, highest total on the slate here. Like we just talked about, you see the Utah Jazz on a slate, someone's going to have a career game 9 times out of 10. For the Lakers, things are a little bit easier here, and you're seeing a lot of value pop off because Austin Reeves is out. We see Marcus Smart move to the starting lineup typically when that happens. DeAndre Ayton is out. We're all expecting Hayes to start in this spot. It could be somebody else. We'll see. Might have to late swap in that situation. But assuming the information we have currently is correct, who are you liking?
So Luka's the obvious. I mean, you just said it. When you see Utah on the slate, we love to play guys against them. I mean, I feel like every game that they have is very high scoring, very fast paced, and I'm pretty sure they've had a lot of overtime games as well. So playing Luka just makes sense. I know the ownership on a 11 game slate doesn't feel right, but I'm eating it. Jackson Hayes, never love, but no, Ayton 3,500, and again, matchup makes all the sense in the world, especially with Kessler out for the whole year. Didn't pull the trigger on LeBron. He's one guy. I'm okay not forcing him. And then I did put a 5% man on Marcus Smart. He's just kind of been that guard who's stepping up with Reeves out. He is volatile, but he somebody who can get you 40 points. So at 5,100, great spot for that. So that's pretty much it for me.
I get it. And this is another bias spot for me. Marcus Smart, I don't think has really wronged me. I think he's helped me take down some tournaments, honestly, when he was with Boston or maybe the Grizzlies. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I feel some type of way about him being 5,100. And so I can't do it. Not today. But I like LeBron James. I do agree with you. I don't think he's a must play. He's definitely avoidable because he's not cheap, but 9K is still pretty pricey. But in the highest total game, he's the one guy who's not getting a ton of ownership when you look at a Luka Doncic. I want exposure to a guy like that, so I have a 15% min on him. Luka Doncic, I think, is the best pay-up option on paper, and so he's going to show up in – he was showing up in 98% of my lineups, and on an 11-game slate, that's just insane if you're playing 150 lineups. If you're playing 20, that's totally fine. So I put a 60% exposure max on him to allow 40% of my lineups to be completely different than 80% of everybody else's. So that was kind of my thought process there. Not a fade, just a spot I wanted to be able to get different at. Same thing with Jackson Hayes. He was showing up in too many of my lineups. And like I said, when you look at Jackson Hayes, it's just relatively rare we see 30, 40-point upside from him, which you don't need at 3,500. But there's other value options on this slate that I wanted to have more exposure to. Not more exposure than Hayes per se, but just more exposure than I was getting before I put a 60% exposure max on Hayes. I still think these are the 2 best plays on paper, but I like capping them to allow myself to get different. Slow brag moment. Monday, the fade of Ace Bailey, that hit. If only I faded the Miami players, though. that did not hit. So let's see. Other Lakers. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyone can do great things against Utah, so there's no bad play from the Lakers team. And then I think, once again, we're going to like the Jazz tonight, too. We got the news that Markkanen was ruled out, which opened things up because Walker Kessler is already out. Niang, they've both been out for a while. And so I think we're expecting Filipowski to start here, right?
Yep.
So who are you liking from Utah tonight?
Yeah, I love Filipowski tonight. I threw a little like on him, and he will be another core play for me. And I love that you can play him at center or power forward. So definitely some nice flexibility there.
Brandon, not to
Whenever,
interrupt you, but we did get the Knicks starting lineup. Did you see that?
it's strange.
Yeah.
For sure.
We have Brunson starting at the 1, Bridges at the 2, Mohamed Daira. I have no idea who that is, I'm going to be honest with you. At the 3, then Anobi, and then Huck Porty at the 5. So we'll come back to that. But what were you saying about the Jazz?
Yeah, I was just saying whenever Markkanen or Nurkic gets rolled out, we see Filipowski step up every time. 5,700 might seem like a lot for him, but he's in a great spot. Going to play a lot of minutes. And then Ayton's out too, so he should smash in this spot. Keontae, I have a 20% min on him. He's just a guy. Gets a lot of usage, a great offensive player. I love him even more with Markkanen out. 60-point upside at 7,900. Just playing him and moving on.
Yeah.
Bryce Sensabaugh, I have a 20% min on. He's just another value play I want in the mix with no Markkanen. I did not force Ace in. He's just been absolute trash. If he was a bit cheaper, I would take a shot, but almost 5K. He's not playing well enough to pay that off. And then I did put a 10% man on Collier. He's another value play, playing over 20 minutes in great form. We've seen him get up to 30 fantasy points before, so definitely a great chance to get close to 10x in his value. Probably won't 10x, but at least 8, I would say he can do in this spot. So want to make sure I have exposure there. And then I did put again, this is another one that probably isn't necessary, but no Markkanen. Taylor Hendricks is in play for me. Should see at least 20 minutes. And if for whatever reason this game does get ugly, he will be somebody who should benefit from blowout runs. So threw a 5% min on him.
Yeah. Highest total game on the slate, man. And the Lakers are not bad defense, but they're not one I go out of my way to avoid. A lot of these guys, I don't have a min right now just on any of them because they were showing up, but it looks like they might have fallen off a little bit with the Knicks showing up a bit more, so I'll keep a close eye out for it. Filipowski is showing up in 38% of my lineup, so I'm still over the field there. I like it. We have George, or I'll just go in order of exposure and just keep an eye out on that. Yeah, Keontae George is showing up in 9% of my lineups. That's not enough. I'm going to put I think he'll be close. I'm going to highest total I want to be over. So I'll put a 20% min on him. Looks like a lot of these guys just aren't showing up enough for me. So let me just I don't want Nurkic. Actually, 6,100 Nurkic. I wonder what the sim model thinks. I doubt it likes him. 6,100. Nurkic has a little bit of interest. It likes other guys a bit more. So yeah, I'll be more likely to take a shot on them. Kyle, we already looked at. He's over the field. Ace Bailey, I don't hate as much today. Really just because he's not the chalk. So whenever a guy who's not that good isn't the chalk, I don't hate it. So I'll put a 10% min on him to make sure he shows up a little bit. But I'm not expecting much there. Bryce Sensabaugh isn't showing up enough for me. He honestly could be a leverage play for me tonight. But I'm just going to do a 25% min just to make sure I'm significantly over the field on him. Again, high total, cheap value play option. Minutes are usually a concern for him just because the Jazz do have a lot of bodies, but I'm not nervous enough about it. And then Isaiah, we hit on this once again on Monday. Willing to go back here because he's still cheap. I'll put a 15% min on him. Another guy just to kind of force in there with the value options on this slate. And that's going to be it. I like the team. I like that game. So I'm going to have exposure to it. All right, 2 more here. We have the Magic going up against the Nuggets. For the Magic, we have Suggs out, and then we have Da Silva and Jonathan Isaac listed as questionable. You like the Magic tonight here?
Took a couple shots. I like the game total overall, so I wanted at least some shots on both sides of the ball. Main ones I did. You don't have to do it because he was showing up naturally, but I have a 20% man on Black just to make sure he doesn't go below that. He just makes a ton of sense with no Suggs, and he's been very solid overall this year. And then I did put a 10% man on Wendell. Um, really like his price, 5,300. Should play a ton of minutes tonight and has 40-point upside. So just a little too cheap for his potential. And seeing if anybody else was showing up. I was getting a little bit of De Silva. He was popping a bit more when I first started doing runs, but I'm okay if he falls off. He has had some solid games earlier in the year, but he's just been super volatile lately. And honestly, it'd be okay if he ends up just getting ruled out, so I don't have to worry about him.
Yeah, for me, I have a Anthony Black showing up by himself in about 31% of lineups, which I appreciate. I like that. 5,900. And I have a 10% min on Paolo. His minutes are finally getting there. He's playing a bit more consistently. Not my favorite matchup against the Nuggets, but I don't hate it. And then I don't like anyone else here from the Magic. Let me make sure no one else is showing up. A little bit of De Silva, but I don't love the spot. For the Nuggets, we have some Q tags for Denver. Denver is without, Peyton Watson's questionable. That's big for guys like Najee, some other forwards. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. is questionable. Usually when he's missing or injured or something, Bruce Brown sees a little bit of a boost. And then Aaron Gordon's been out for a while, which is part of why I like Paolo. Matchup's a little bit softer than it looks on paper with Aaron Gordon out still. But what are your thoughts on the Nuggets?
Only two guys here for me. Jokic, of course. Don't really need to say too much about him. He can break a slate any given night with his upside. And then Murray, you can put in that same category. Of course, not as high upside as Jokic, but we've seen him put up 60, 70 points before. And Orlando's pretty weak against defensively against the point guard position. So definitely want some shots there. Put a 10% min there as well.
You know what? I like that. I'll follow you. I'll put a 10% min on Murray, 15% min on Jokic just to be a little bit over the field, but he's going to see ownership. It's not sneaky with all the value we have on this slate. Last game, we have the Warriors going up against the Suns. No real injury news to talk about here. This game didn't really stand out for me at all. Are you playing guys from either side of this game? You taking any shots?
Only one. Just put a 5% min on Curry. He's just in great form. Back-to-back great games. And Phoenix doesn't really scare me defensively. So I think this is another spot where he can do something. And he's only 2% owned. So yeah, definitely think it's worth a shot. And didn't get anywhere else here.
I followed you on that. I put a 5% min on him because it just makes sense with his low ownership and upside he has. So that's going to be it, y'all. We do not have enough time. There are 11 games on the slate to answer any questions. We have to get our lines in and build some single entry lines, or at least I do. So if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out in the Discord. We have a lot of coaches there who can help you all out. But I wish you all nothing but the best tonight. And we'll see you on Monday. All right. Peace out, y'all.